Back here on the Cover 3 podcast on Wednesdays. We like to dive deep inside the matchup, X factors, and more. It's all right, let's begin. Are you trying to do your own entrances?
That was my best imitation of Chris Collinsworth, just sliding in right there into the booth.
I'm on carpet. It's not.
So it's really windy down here, super windy, and one of our umbrellas. My wife left our umbrella open outside on the deck, which is very much a pet peeve because they look better. You should close them so they don't blow away. So it blew away, and it was about to hit the string lights and take them down. It was about to be a disaster. So got to take care of.
It's gonna be windy in Danny's house.
My 2-year-old last night, we told him don't jump in the pool. We were carving pumpkins out on the deck, and he might be a lawyer, man, because he jumped in the fountain and not the pool. You said no pool.
Smart kid. He's a genius.
And of course, he hits the like one of the fountain tubes, right?
Yeah,
and like it didn't crack, but it's like now I gotta like run it, make sure it's like straight again. It's yeah. His progress report at school
must be nice.
Not good.
I'll tell you what, I got a fountain. It's called a garden hose. We just stick it straight up in the sky and just.
Hey, honestly, like I want to just like get rid of this fountain and like throw a hot tub on top because like more space use.
Let's go full grotto. All right, come on. Hey, listen, we'll get that grotto money on locks coming up on Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So I have enjoyed how quickly the narrative has been shot down because, you see Texas A&M, you understand where they are, undefeated in SEC play, coming off this massive win against LSU. They're going on the road to unranked South Carolina, and the word trap game seems like it was immediately shut down because anybody who's sensible can take all of the other information that we have, the competitiveness that South Carolina has had against some very good teams, the way that this South Carolina team is built, especially along the defensive front, and understand that playing there in Williams-Brice is going to be a tough environment for this Texas A&M team. Nobody at Texas A&M is looking at this as a trap game. This is 100% getting the full attention. Texas A&M also has its own questions, starting with the quarterback, Connor Wegman, Marcel Reed, after doing the switcheroo in the middle of the LSU game. Got a nasty Aggies offensive line, tenacious South Carolina defensive front. Texas A&M defensive line is going to be trying to eat and contain Lenora Sellers. Great opportunity for Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks. I know that Cocktober will be done officially by the time this thing kicks off on November 2nd, but we'll be under the lights in prime time. Danny, what part of this matchup sort of has your attention?
First of all, I am under the assumption that Marcel Reed is starting. He's the quarterback moving forward. If he's not, I am in a little bit of panic mode, having said that A&M could be the best team in the SEC. But I did say with Marcel Reed playing quarterback, I think this is going to be more of about the defenses, like which defense has more success. Both of them face running quarterbacks in practice every day, right? Especially if that Texas A&M defense gets a look at Marcel Reed, which I'm assuming they did for a lot of the offseason, especially considering that Connor Wegman was probably starting. And South Carolina has got to see Lenora Sellers in practice every day, another running quarterback. So I feel like both teams with really good defensive fronts will have a plan to keep those quarterbacks in check. They've both done pretty good jobs against running quarterbacks. Even A&M, I know they lost the game, but they did a pretty good job versus Riley Leonard, holding him in check. South Carolina did a pretty good job with Jalen Milroe. Like, they've seen some quarterbacks that are similar. I think it's going to be a battle of the big plays. And whether that's 1 or 2 big plays is the difference of the game, or 3 or 4, I think both of these quarterbacks, who are not the type of quarterback that's going to take you on a 12-play drive, dinking and dunking, here's, 5 of 7 on this drive. It's here you go. Here's a shot over the top, just like we saw with Noah Thomas and Marcel Reed, one of his only 2 completions, just like we saw from him, whether it was at Florida, whether it was, whatever game that he's played and had big plays. And same thing with Lenora Sellers. Like, I don't think either one of these quarterbacks are going to drive the length of the field. So I think it's going to be sort of a battle of the big plays, and it might just be 1 or 2 is the difference.
I mean, are we sure that Reed should be the guy? Like he
Yes.
came in, he played well, they won that game,
Yes.
but he threw 2 passes, man. And
So
like
what?
we know from
Wegman threw
behind,
4 that should have been picked versus Mississippi State. He doesn't turn the ball over. Like, that's the most important thing.
I think that's fair, but like we know from talking to other coaches behind the scenes who have faced Reed, they're like, man, there's a lot of stuff he doesn't see. Like a lot. And I wonder if that's good enough. Here's probably the real question. How many points do you think Mike Elko would say, all right, taking my chip stack, I'm leaving the table? Like, is it 21?
20.
Is it 24?
20.
Yeah,
was
no,
about to say
I actually I was
27,
on
sure.
I was on the radio this morning with Miller Moulton out of Fort Myers, like good, really good old school show. And I said 20 this morning. And they're like, it's a little higher, right? Like, I think if you gave Mike Elko
Marcel Reed, because Marcel Reed's not going to gift any points.
what percentage of the time does 20 points win the game for Texas A&M?
Most of the time, I would say 60.
I kind of think so too.
Yeah, like to Bud's point, I agree that you're probably going to start Marcel Reed, but we've seen this movie before. Like in Marcel Reed's first start against Florida, when they weren't really sure what to expect because it had been Wegman before that, he throws for 261 yards, has 3 touchdowns, 191.5 passing efficiency, 10.5 yards per attempt. The next 2 games against Bowling Green and Arkansas, not exactly the most stalwarts of opponents, but they knew what they were going to be getting at the quarterback position. He had 440 total yards and 5 touchdowns, but his efficiency dropped to 134.2 and his yards per attempt drops to 6.6. It's very safe to say that he is not going to be nearly as effective in this game as he was against LSU, in which he comes in mid-game, and LSU's game plan was built around Wegman. They had to completely try to change everything, and Marcel Reed and everything just kind of avalanche. So I don't think the A&M offense is going to look nearly as good as it did in that time when Reed was in there last week against LSU. I think we're going to come back to normal, especially when you consider that South Carolina's defensive line is pretty damn good. Like, and if you look at this Texas A&M offensive line so far this year, they were overrun by Notre Dame in the season opener, and they were getting overrun last week when Connor Wegman was in there before they made the switch to Marcel Reed, which kind of helped slow that pass rush down a bit. South Carolina's defensive line might be better than both Notre Dame and LSU's. I think there's a pretty good argument to make that it is. So how do they hold up? What does Marcel Reed do if he's under pressure all the time? Do then the turnovers that we haven't seen kind of start making their way? And I think that if you are South Carolina, like that has to be the way that you win this game. Because South Carolina fans, if you're watching or listening, you might want to cover your ears. Here are some statistics about South Carolina's offense in 2024. They have an 11.3% explosive rate. That ranks 94th. They have scored on a third of their drives. That ranks 95th.
That's not high.
They reached the red zone on 24.7% of their drives. That ranks 106th. They're averaging 4.04 points when they do get to the red zone. That ranks 102nd. They are 38.7% of the time they go 3 and out on offense. They don't get a first down. That ranks 120th. And on first down, this is part of the reason why they have so many 3 outs. They have a 34.7% success rate on first down. That ranks 115th. So if you're South Carolina, we just mentioned, if you're Texas A&M, you're probably happy with 20 points because based on what we have seen from this South Carolina offense, odds are they will not be able to put up a ton of points on offense, especially against this Texas A&M defense, which does blitz effectively. And South Carolina's offense, like a lot of it is on Lenore Sellers. I'm not blaming their offensive line, but they do give up a lot of pressure rate because their quarterback does not make quick decisions. So if Texas A&M is blitzing them, it's just, if you're the Gamecocks, you need your defense to have a lights out performance.
We need turnovers. You've got to give Lenore Sellers short fields.
Couple things here. One, I think South Carolina will get way more pressure on A&M without blitzing than LSU did. Like LSU was kind of just wild and crazy there, and A&M couldn't hold up, and that was at home. So there is a chance that A&M doesn't get to 20, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. The other thing that I am curious about is yes, I think there's a massive coaching edge for Texas A&M in this game. I think Elko is one of the best coaches. I think this is one of the best coaching staffs in the SEC. I think South Carolina is very close to the bottom, at least in my personal ratings. Argue amongst yourselves. I don't care. But Sellers, the last 2 times we saw him, was definitely hurt. Remember, coming off the ankle. So he was more limited. Now he gets a bye week to come off, and they get a whole week to work on this A&M thing. I could say, like, maybe we see an uptick in his performance. You know, it's his 7th college start now, maybe 6th, because he missed a game, I think, with Ashford playing. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Sellers plays a lot better with a bye week and a healthy ankle. It is possible.
Not to circle too far back, but just as a question, if South Carolina can get home with 4 and apply pressure better than almost anyone, wouldn't you want Reed's mobility?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. Clearly, the odds makers are talking to the same people that Bud's talking to about who you'd rather face, and it seems like they're assuming Marcel Reed is going to be the guy too, and that he can't throw the football at all. I just think he's a better fit for what Colin Klein wants to do, and that is be primarily a running team. Like, Colin Klein himself wasn't an outstanding passer, and I think sometimes teams get caught up in wanting the best of both worlds. I think they need to choose their identity. It's Marcel Reed sprinkling in some passing where you take those shots down the field, but he is so dynamic as a runner, and what it does for Le'Veon Moss as well as a runner, I think is worth sacrificing a little bit more in the downfield pass game.
I'm also very interested, stemming off, hey, Chip recklessly speculates, come into my corner. So during the game, the camera caught Connor Wegman learning that he was going to be replaced.
Not happy about it.
Did not look happy about it. This week during press conferences, when Mike Elko is being asked about it, he mentioned 2 things. He said it's about what we want to do, but it's also about what's best for those kids. And that makes me think that he is making decisions, taking into consideration not just some cold calculus that we might be applying. He is really taking into consideration about like the mindset and what he thinks that Texas A&M is going to need, not just for each individual game, but for the season as a whole. If Connor Wegman is the starting quarterback, that tells me that some of that is being done to try to make sure that you keep Connor Wegman in on this season. And that if you want to really go and pursue a championship, that Mike Elko wants to make sure that Connor Wegman is all in. Because if you are still trying to do the soft, personal or if we're taking feelings into consideration, then, which is fine, you know, if that's what you got.
Somebody please think of the children.
Then if you're trying to keep Connor Wegman on board because you think that you need to have him to be able to go pursue a championship, I think that's probably part of the decision making if we see Connor Wegman start. Because to me, if you're just going to go out there knowing that all you need to do against South Carolina is have a good running game, be able to escape the pressure, and go score 21 points, Marcel Reed can go and do that.
I do ask, not just if that's what Mike Elko means. If you need to keep Connor Wegman to compete for a national championship, then why are you benching him against LSU at home?
Just get a spark, maybe.
Quinn Ewers got benched.
Yeah, because he was hurt.
Oh, we think.
I'm just saying, like,
right.
You've benched Wegman twice now.
That's why I think
how
it's
important
obvious.
is he truly to you? Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. He speaks very highly of him still, you know? So all right, we can
I'm not calling him out. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying actions typically speak a lot louder than words.
Maybe he doesn't want him to enter the portal.
Yes.
Because that's
what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I know that's what he's saying, but I don't know. I feel like the way you've made your QB decisions so far this season, you probably feel like you need to be hitting the portal to find one.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Anything else on this game? We'll have our locks coming up on Thursday.
Can't wait to watch Williams Brice at night in a big game. Place gets
going to be
jacked.
awesome. Scene's going to be crazy.
Sandstorm's going to be blasting.
There is a guy who I feel like is set. I forgot what was the guy's name I was looking at earlier. This is a bad podcast.
Mikey, play some music.
I think Josh Simon could actually have a pretty good game here for South Carolina. Just if you look at it, kind of the way A&M defends stuff, they had to change how they did stuff last week because LSU was torching them so much between the hash marks. But Simon is an interesting chess piece for the South Carolina offense. I mean, they move him all around. He's kind of like a detached tight end. I could see him having some success inside of the numbers, unless A&M just decides to stick with what they did in the second half, and they basically just dared them to throw outside the numbers, which, given that like nobody on South Carolina has decent receiving numbers at all, yeah, that'll probably be on the card. Yeah, that's. I mean, probably shouldn't have said anything, but
jump on it now because the line's about to move.
Some of them move quite a bit. Like maybe A&M just plays more that cover one stuff, right? Like you know, spy or rob or whatever you want to do, and makes South Carolina throw the ball outside the numbers. Because if they dared Nussmeier to do it and they were able to handle the LSU receivers, pretty sure they could do the same with South Carolina.